What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Trader's Edge Crypto. My name is Lawton Ho here with Verified Investing, and I'm joined by Benjamin Poole and Drew Dosek. Guys, say hello.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, Ben? All right. So the way this is going to work, guys, and I know that I'm going to repeat myself a couple times, is the only way that you're actually able to participate and ask us questions is by joining the verifiedinvesting.com homepage. I'm going to repeat this a couple more times because I expect at least 3,000 more people to hop on. But we're going to start by looking through different cryptocurrencies, looking for a potential day trade, and going from there. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How are you?
Fantastic day so far. A little bit sleepy in the markets. There's been some movers. But we see Bitcoin coming down today. Bitcoin right now is bouncing up over the last 10 minutes. But Bitcoin, most altcoins too. Here's one of the things I'm looking at. And over to your chart. All right. All right, so here we go. Look at this Bitcoin chart. You see here that we do have this declining trend line right here. Now, if we had this trend line coming in with price moving straight down to it, that would be an awesome opportunity for day trade long on Bitcoin. But you see that price in this hour candle starting to bounce up right here, right where the support is. But Bitcoin for the day down 1.16%, down $1,200. You notice also, though, on the daily chart where price is really stalling out. If we look here on this chart, I'll take this off so we can zoom in a little bit more. You can see we're stalling out right here at the 50% area of this parallel. We've now hit it 4 different days and are pulling back. So far, though, this is somewhat bullish consolidation until we see a break lower, basically to that trend line that I highlighted. So that trend line's down here right around 105,500. We'll see if price action comes down. That would actually initiate a whole bunch of trading opportunities for day trading for me today. If I were to get price to come straight down with Bitcoin, then we can start longing either Bitcoin or some other altcoins. But right now, with it being kind of right in the middle of this fall down to support, I don't really have a good level on Bitcoin at the moment. And that really kind of puts a damper on some of the other coins. Do you see anything else, Ben, that you're focusing in on that is close to any sort of day tradable levels?
The only thing I'm looking at, let me go ahead and share my chart with you. Share screen. Here we go. So we've got TIA right here. It's coming down. If it got all the way down to double bottom at 131.20, this for me would be a great long level on Celestia. So this is kind of what I'm looking at the moment. I don't really have any good chart setups quite yet. It's trying to reattack 131 area and stay above this. So you had some support in this area or resistance, got above. Now it's acting as support. So we'll see what happens with TIA. But that's kind of on my radar. You don't have any high flyers today. JTO USD, it's not really doing a whole lot on the day. So if you go to the daily session, it needs to go up a little bit more, probably to 263 for me to really be interested in a day trade short level. I mean, you have this high pivot at 253. So if it gets up there, maybe we'll start, or yeah, 253.09, may be able to start a small position. But we're looking for overextended charts. And again, you know, TIA, WU, MOVE, but these aren't, they're not down a ton on the day. So it makes it a little bit trickier to get into a long position, especially without Bitcoin into really solid support. So I will be looking at some of these charts here for a possible day trade, though, if they do drop a little bit more. First level I would have on MOVE, I'd want to see it head down to this support area at 16,625. But yeah, I mean, that's what I have. I don't really have a whole lot as far as like huge movers on the day, though.
Look at that TIA RSI on the daily. That's a really neat pattern that's going on right there.
Yeah, it hit 30 on the 22nd of June. Yep. Now it's consolidating. It's starting to move a little bit higher. No positive RSI divergence at the moment, though. That's the only problem. And on the daily chart, you do have a trend line. Let me go ahead and draw this in so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Let's take this high pivot. Look at that. So we start breaking above. See how much resistance this downsloping trend line provides. We start breaking above, and then TIA is going to skyrocket. It's going to go to at least 220. But as of right now, it's pretty beat up. So anyway, yeah, nothing else on my radar right now as far as possible day trade level.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let me just show folks too what kind of happened here too with when you're looking at these levels. Notice this one green candle, this massive green 10-minute candle. This is on the Pyth network. This one massive green candle occurred at 11:20, just 10 minutes before we hopped on. But with that big move, that kind of puts us in like a middle ground area for making trades. If you notice here, I can show you where this pivot occurred. You notice from this pivot high here, and then that to isolate down another level, I just go right back to the next major pivot, and that's going to be our next level on Pyth. And many of these alts are starting to do this, much like I showed Bitcoin started to bounce within the last 20 minutes. And that this sort of pattern is happening. So it's very difficult for us to enter a long here since we've already bounced up from the support. I'd rather wait for price to retreat further to other support areas. Like we could get down here on Pyth down at, roughly just about 10 cents. So we need to be patient and be disciplined. That's one of the main things that's involved with day trading. If there's not a level, I'm not going to force a trade. There's so many opportunities for good trades. We just need to let them play out and get into our levels. So anyway, but yeah, Lawton, what did you have some questions?
I got some questions from the chat. Guys, again, I see some stock questions. We are not going to be answering any stock questions just because this is specifically for crypto, Trader's Edge crypto. Anyways, Juania says, hi guys, amazing work as always. Thanks for the compliments. Alexander says, thanks for doing this. Can you do a Doge analysis? Seems like Doge broke a downsloping trend line on to the upside.
So I will say I like that kind of a question. Can we do a Doge analysis? It looks as if it's broken a wedge pattern, gives us some context into what you're seeing instead of, hey, what are the support and resistance levels on Doge? So thank you so much for that question.
That is awesome. You see what I just did there too? I flipped a support area into resistance because that area was support with price coming down on Doge. And now this area of 0.1898 will be resistance moving up for Doge. Notice also it did break this inclining daily trend line right here. And that really was the line in the sand where price changed. If you notice and look at this pattern, right? We had price create a pivot low, come down, make another pivot, which then allowed us to create this trend line. We now have two pivots, right? From pivot to pivot. So you string that all the way out. Notice how price reacts when it comes back to it. It started consolidating underneath, almost giving the illusion like price was about to break higher. However, this was a bear flag. Price came down further, and then it retested this trend line, right? The same trend line that broke on the way down. So that shows that this trend line is a significant trend line for Doge. Should Doge start moving back up? But first things first, it needs to beat this resistance area of 1898. So 0.1898 on the chart of Doge. That's really the first test moving up for it to beat should it continue wanting to go higher.
Cool.
On the downside, watch this trend line too, this inclining trend line. That should be roughly about 14.4 cents. That area should provide some ample support for another test of that trend line. But basically, that's the analysis I have on Doge. Do you have anything different there, Ben, you want to add?
No, that's a great chart pattern. Just looks like there's also a head and shoulders pattern built into that. So where your second hit of the upsloping trend line.
One like this?
No. The second
inverse?
hit of your upsloping Second hit of your
okay.
upsloping.
Yep, right here.
Here, let me switch over to mine.
Are you talking about a head and shoulders to go lower?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Head and shoulders
It
back.
could be. It could
I got
be
you,
forming
Ben.
that right
I got
shoulder.
you.
All right. So it looks possible shoulder, head, shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm. Which in that case, you're right. That the bottom inclining trend line I had would be that neckline.
For me, it wouldn't be the best head and shoulders pattern, but it still looks shoulder, head, shoulder. So it could continue lower. So what you're wanting is a retrace or a recapture of this upsloping trend line right here. If we can recapture it, then it could be a failed head and shoulders pattern with opportunity to continue higher. So right now we're in just kind of price discovery mode. You had this nice wick on this nice tail on the bottom, followed by this nice green bar candle, sideways consolidation. So it's more of a bull flag right now. So it has the likelihood or more of a probability, in my opinion, to recapture this. But now we're still in a downtrend. So we have to break some resistance levels in order for us to continue higher on the Dogecoin chart.
Cool. And again, for those of you just joining us, I know about 1,000 more people just joined since I last announced this. If you want to ask us questions, interact with us directly, you can go to the verifiedinvesting.com homepage. You'll have our live stream there, and there will be a question box on the right-hand side. So totally free. All right, Stephanie says, yep, this is only crypto. Stephanie says, hi, guys. Thanks for doing this session. Thoughts on Pepe? You want to take a look at Pepe for me, Ben?
Sure. So again, when we're analyzing charts, it's asking us what our thoughts on it. We don't care what it is, right? We don't care what the altcoin is. We don't have a bias saying, oh, well, Pepe is going to go to the moon because of this, this, and this. No, we just look at the charts. And so give us an idea of what you guys are thinking when you guys are asking us to analyze these charts. It'll help us out tremendously, right? Because what we're going to show you is I can show you support and resistance. Like this resistance is going to be 100% away, and this one's going to be 40% away. It doesn't really give you guys as much information as if you were to just give us an idea of what you're looking at, kind of like what you did, what the last person did on Dogecoin. All right, so here's my analysis on Pepe, right? So it's above this support level, right at 914. So if we stay above this level, then yeah, we're going to go higher. If we drop below it, then we're going to go lower. And that's just kind of the idea of support and resistance. So if we do end up dropping below this 914 level, then you have this low pivot at 756, and then you have a low pivot right here, basically just below 598, and then again another low pivot. So if we break this downsloping trend line, I don't know if you guys can see this on the charts, but here's a high pivot. Looks like we're running into resistance right now. So if we go up, then it could go up to 1632. So you see what I mean? Like there are lots of support and resistance levels. But if we don't get an idea of where you're looking, or, hey, I'm looking to get into this for a long, I mean, these levels are super far away, right? Let's say we break down here, you're looking at 15 to 35% lower. And I don't know that that's necessarily beneficial for you. I mean, if it is, then awesome. Keep asking the questions like you guys are. But if it's not, if you guys are looking for a little bit more of an in-depth idea of what we're thinking, then kind of try to revise your questions so that way we can go into the charts a little bit deeper into what you guys are thinking or what you're wanting to look for.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, some other questions coming on. Before I get into that, do you guys have any day trades levels that you want to repeat potentially coming up?
No, TIA is still basically staying steady. It's rising a little bit. It never got to that level I was interested at 131. So it's still got, let's say another 6% drop, unless I can get some kind of information or reversal type patterns. I don't really have anything on TIA yet. I was looking at WUSD, so wormhole. It's had a nice bounce off the lows. So it's already up like 2%. Wasn't down a lot. It was down, maybe closer to 10%. So nothing really on the radar yet. But I'll keep you guys posted if something changes. So now, yeah, you can go with the next question.
All right. Next question is Javkey saying, any long opportunities on Litecoin?
All right, Litecoin.
Yeah, I'll take that if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had the last one. All right, here we go. All right, you see I've got some funny drawings here on the screen of Litecoin. So Litecoin, what do we have here? We've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern, right? Designated by this declining neckline right here that we've pierced, kept getting bounces and saves off of. Haven't quite fully negated it. You could argue that you did here and here. But whenever these patterns play out like this, at least my experience shows that I still keep the measured move up here. It likely will weaken the possibility of Litecoin getting up here to this measured move, since it is playing around on this neckline, teetering with failing this pattern. But the measured move for this inverse head and shoulders pattern is all the way up here at 123.12. So still decent potential upside for Litecoin. The main area, though, for you to watch is this declining trend line. Notice, though, that this declining trend line, like it stated, is decreasing in value over time. So this, this pattern becomes less, it has less strength the longer it's playing out down here. Because in essence, we're making bearish consolidation, right? We have a down move, bearish consolidation, down move, bearish consolidation. So it's trying to save itself and keep up above this declining trend line. But that would be the one I would pay most attention to. This from pivot right here, pivot high on March 26th, connected over to this pivot high on May 1st. And just string on your chart, string that trend line all the way down. And that's really the make or break spot for Litecoin at this time.
So the question was, do we have any buy levels? So if you could switch over to my chart, Lawton.
Yep. Gotcha.
All right. So you've got also this down sloping trend line. So you've got this high at 139.87. You have this pivot at 106.48. This hit this down sloping trend line again at 102.71. Kissed it at 93.87, and now it's retesting it. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be the 6th time that we're reattacking this down sloping trend line, creating a more of a bull flag, like Drew was saying. So if it starts to break out of this down sloping trend line, you would want to wait for a retrace to the scene of the crime. So if we can break out, confirm above it, retrace to about 83 or 82.58, that would potentially be a good long level. And then if it starts heading down a little bit lower, 75.37 would be another add level. And then look at all this support. So you got this low pivot from the April 7th lows, but right in this area, right around 68.50 to 67.50 area, ton of support in this area. So this would be another level to look for as far as a possible long or an add level on Litecoin. This starts breaking, though, you can actually get a move back up to 106.31. This would be your next level of resistance.
All right. Thanks for the question. Jackie says, love the work. Love the work. Does the analysis work on all charts? For example, are analysis tactics the same on the 1-minute charts and the 1-day charts? Of course, depending on what the chart says.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make analysis on the 1-minute chart. The 1-minute chart analysis is going to be good for an hour, hour and a half, maybe the rest of the day. So maybe 24 hours. And that's on the 1-minute chart. The 10-minute chart is good for maybe the rest of the day. It could be as much as or as high as a week. The daily charts, when you're analyzing those are good for, a month, maybe month and a half, or longer, depending on what the chart setup is telling you. But ultimately, you want to look at the larger time frames when you're analyzing the smaller time frames. So when we're entering trades, we could see a great level on a 1 minute chart, but if it doesn't correspond with a daily chart or at least a 10-minute chart, the 1 minute is going to be void, because there's just not enough conviction at that one specific level for us to make a longer term analysis on an intraday pattern. So when you're analyzing these things, you want to make sure that when you do take into consideration the 1 minute and the 10-minute, the intraday chart patterns, that you also take in consideration the larger time frame patterns. But yeah, the eventually all of them will play out similarly. It just depends on your overall time horizon that you're looking.
Yeah, I mean, and a head and shoulders pattern is a head and shoulders pattern, whether it's on the 1 minute or 10-minute, hourly, daily, all of those patterns are still valid. Like if you're interested in learning about trend lines and different patterns, I recommend Drew's course, the Mastering the Overnight Trade. I mean, sleeper hold. It goes through all sorts of things like that you can use on multiple timeframes, whether you're day trading, swing trading. And what's great about it is whether you're interested in cryptocurrency, commodities, or even traditional stocks and ETFs. I mean, sleeper hold's good to learn how to chart that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a great thing about technical analysis, folks, is that it doesn't matter what it is. We could be trading rocks. As long as they can chart the value of the rocks, we can figure out patterns, which would be a great buying place and which would be a great selling location. All we need is the chart. So learn technical analysis, start trading, whatever it is you want to trade.
Yep. Yeah, Simon, no worries. So two questions here. Atin says, can you look into Hype, any short trade? I mean, you traded this last time, right, Drew? I'm going to switch to your charts. You did trade Hype USDT last week or 2 weeks ago, was it? For a day trade? I can't hear you, Drew. Oh, you're muted. I unmuted you.
I thought Drew went silent for a second.
I know. I was like,
that is not like Drew.
Drew's sick.
All right. So you traded this before, right?
Yes, I did. This right now wouldn't be, an ideal shorting candidate for me at the moment. That could change, though. You notice we're starting to have a head and shoulders pattern that at least is starting to form on the charts, right? This being the left shoulder, head, and then this right shoulder. We haven't pushed up yet to the all-time highs on Hyperliquid, at least on this chart yet. So I don't have a really good shorting level at this at the moment. One thing you have some decent selling right here at the high. Notice this massive wick that's right here. So I would watch price action basically coming up to where it was on the high today, right into all of these pivots and chop action. I don't necessarily have a short on this. Do you see anything, Ben, that I'm not seeing on this?
It's up 0.53% on the day.
Yeah, I think he was implying, though, short swing. Is that right, Lawton?
No, just can you look into Hype, any short trade ?
Gotcha. Yeah, without the volatility, you see we just bounced and went straight back in. As far as day trade, 10-minute chart right here, we're right back into this chop too. So there's not a trade there. Now, if we were to extend this bounce out up like this, then we would be talking about a trade. But with just a few candles like this, and now we're coming right back into where price is, there's really no advantage for me at this moment for any day trade.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Drew. Matt saying, hi, is Hyperliquid forming a head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart?
Oh, a couple questions on Hyper.
Yeah, that's what I had pointed out right there. And so with this pivot down here, I would have to make the neckline down here too, with these pivot candles, rather than taking this shoulder and then saying it broke a little bit earlier. I'd be more conservative with that. And let's just see what this does for a potential play out. You know, should this break out or break down as the chart is somewhat implying. Now, notice though, this right shoulder is not completely formed. It may be at the peak, but we're also on the verge of potentially going higher. Now, what would negate a head and shoulders pattern is price action going above the head. So you see this head high pivot here at $45, basically 80 cents, 79.9 cents. So you want to make sure for this pattern to stay intact, the price doesn't go above this pivot high. If it does, it basically X's out this pattern. If price stays underneath that pivot high and can continue back down, this neckline from the pivot low here on May 31st, strung out right here in between these two pivots from June 21st and 22nd is going to be your neckline. Currently roughly about $31.62. And then the payout for it, should it play out, would be a move all the way down here to $17.24 on the chart. That would kind of make sense. These are the things I like to do whenever I'm kind of theorizing where price action is going to go on any chart, crypto, just like this. I like to formulate my thesis by drawing these trend lines, figuring out the potential measured move target and what that would look like once price gets into that area. So we scroll back out and you notice if this was 17.24 for a move down, what do we have right here in this area? We've got pivots and pivots from a recent low that was placed on the chart. So this area was an area of consolidation for a breakout and move higher. Makes sense. If price is to come back in, it's likely going to start catching support right here in that area too. Notice here, this is one of my favorite trend lines to draw, where you get a high pivot here. You can string it out horizontally and notice how it catches the pivots right here on all this price action. It's one of my favorite trend lines. So this was resistance moving up.
That's a trend line? Can't see anything.
Yeah. Here, I'll make it a little thicker for you. I guess my eyes are still good. I thought I was getting older.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I can see the trend line now.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no trend line there.
Yeah. So it's definitely, this is one of the better techniques I found for horizontal trend lines. I want to see a support and resistance level all in one. So yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Well, the right shoulder is not formed yet.
Another thing though, guys, keep in consideration that when we're looking at charts, we tend to look at charts that have been well developed. Look at when on the daily chart, it goes back to what, December 2024. So there's not enough human psychology in something like this to give us an accurate representation. So when Drew goes over these, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to play out as well as it would if it was a well-established altcoin, right? So just kind of keep that in mind when you guys are throwing up charts and saying, oh, well, this one's been out for 3 weeks now. What do you guys think? We don't have enough information. We don't have enough price action consolidation in certain areas. So
sure.
Great point there.
Absolutely. All right. Next question. Tiziana says, any thoughts on Dog for a short trade, DOG or Doge? I'm looking at Doge 1 minute chart and it's kind of breaking an upsloping head and shoulders, or not. It's breaking a head and shoulders pattern right now. But Dog,
well, we went over Dogecoin already.
Well, for day trade, she's saying short for day trade.
Oh,
because there's the head and shoulders pattern at the 1 minute, the end of it.
Well, you kind of have a head and shoulders pattern, on the 1 minute.
Yep, that's breaking now, retracing or attempting to retrace. Yep. Is that a strong enough pattern that you think it'll be good to play for day trade, or does it meet your qualifications?
It would be me trying to force a trade at this moment.
Absolutely. I was just going to say it's from its lows, it's up 1.5%. So what are you looking for as far as a day trade? Are you going to go like 100x leverage to make 0.5%?
Well, the way Tiziana wrote it as DOG without the E, but I'm not sure if that's a big coin. I looked it up. That'd be WIF, just Dog.
Okay.
Dog go to the moon. Is
Probably
that it?
Doge. It's probably Doge.
Probably Doge, right?
Well, the
I'm
thing
pretty
is, I
sure.
mean, you got conflicting chart signals here, right? On the daily, it's a bull flag pattern, and then here we've got, on the 1 minute time frame, a break of a head and shoulders pattern. Just like what Ben mentioned before, whenever the 1 minute patterns, they do play out, they do work often a lot, but the larger time frame is going to be more dominant. So if this pattern does work out, which it surely could, we'd see price on Doge come down here around the 16.32 cents. But if we're wrong, the larger time frame still a bull flag pattern, which shows it should start moving up. So it's one of those. It's kind of threading a needle situation and putting myself at too much risk for not a good enough probable outcome.
And if they are talking about dog go to the moon, then it's down 6.5-7% already. Could it continue lower after making a head and shoulders pattern? Yeah, absolutely. The problem is when something's already down 7%, trying to short it after it's already bounced, it's kind of in no man's land. So
Gotcha.
So here it is, right? You had
dog on a 1 minute wedge pattern on the 1 minute chart.
Yeah, so it's up 3.5% from the lows. It's already 3.5% from the current high. There's no advantage for me. If you wanted to give it a try, absolutely. It's got decent volume on the day, but again, down 5.92%. It's already bouncing. I just don't have an advantage, right? So this would be what we like to call trying to force a trade, like Drew was just saying, where we're trying to analyze a chart and get our thesis to agree with us taking a trade. Oh, well, we're not in a trade yet, and I really want to be in a trade. So let's see if we can create this thesis and then enter a trade and hope it plays out without the advantage. So if it was at the highs of the chart and it put in a head and shoulders pattern, if it was up 10, 15, 20%, sure, because then we know that we can get, 2, 3 to 5% of a pullback. But right now, I don't have, again, there's nothing that tells me that this is definitely going to continue lower.
Gotcha. Thank you for answering, guys. I gotta sneeze.
Bless you.
All right. Good thing I caught that. That would have been really loud. All right. Martin says, do you guys use a screener for cryptocurrency? And if so, what filters and settings do you guys use? We sort by kind of the market cap, right? Of the coins. Right? We would generally trade things that are a little bit larger. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. Yeah, I like to sort my cryptos in the top 100 market cap cryptos, and those are the ones that I'm going to be focusing in for day trades.
Yep. Next question. Adam says, actually, Zachary says, how do you guys think do you guys think there's an alt season on the horizon? Keep in mind, stock charts are seemingly to be topping out.
Now, Ben has some amazing insight with this because of his Bitcoin dominance studies. He really does a good job that could provide insight to help people understand, when some money is going to exit Bitcoin and then go into these alts. So I'll set the stage up there for that.
So it's played out the last couple of times. There's no guarantees. So the idea behind Bitcoin dominance and it guaranteeing a pattern to show when there's an altcoin, an alt season, I would be remiss to say that that's 100% because it's not, right? As you can see right now, Bitcoin dominance is pretty high. It actually got above 65%, but the altcoins aren't really moving. So even though it looks like there should be money rotation with a consolidation of Bitcoin, there's a little bit of a discrepancy. And so it does, based on the Bitcoin dominance chart, seem as if there's an altcoin season on the horizon. But if people start piling out of Bitcoin, then we could have Bitcoin dominance decrease and the altcoins decrease at the same time, the money would just be rushing out of Bitcoin quicker, which would cause a collapse in Bitcoin dominance. So if you notice where Bitcoin dominance is at and where all the altcoins are in correlation with Bitcoin, the altcoins are still pretty much rock bottom. I mean, they're not all the way new all-time lows, but right now there's just so much heavy money rotation into Bitcoin that if Bitcoin starts to drop, the altcoins are going to drop, but they don't have as far to go anymore as Bitcoin does. So that could really drop Bitcoin dominance down as well. So in the past, I've put it where, you know, as Bitcoin dominance rises and it gives way for an altcoin season, doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to be the case this time. So,
all right. Thank you for your analysis, Ben.
sure.
Yeah, for the 1,000 people that just joined us, if you guys want to participate and join us and ask questions, you can do so exclusively at the Verified Investing homepage. Another thing, we are proud to be sponsored by Blofin, BLOFIN. It is the exclusive cryptocurrency exchange of Verified Investing. We use it to day trade. So if you want to trade with us, day trade with us, and use up to 150 times leverage, go check out, scroll to the bottom of our homepage, click our sponsors, and check out Blofin. Thank you to Blofin again for sponsoring us.
Is it 250 times leverage or is it 150?
150. Did I say
Okay.
250?
Yeah, I thought you did.
All right. Yeah, Frank says views on Ethereum 88 XRP. Frank, if you want to go ahead and resubmit your question, we're not going to answer any questions that are just naming a specific coin or cryptocurrency. We'd like some more context. So we'd like your time frame and or your bias to the long or a short, right?
And one at a time, please.
Yeah, one at a time. All right, next question. Alex says, how can you draw and trust the trend line, support and resistance levels? Are there any guidelines? That's an amazing question. And if you want to learn more about that, I recommend Drew's course, the Sleeper Hold Overnight, Mastering the Overnight Trade, the Sleeper Hold. It's on sale now, half off for Investor Empowerment Week. It's really kind of complicated and difficult for us to explain just, you know, in a short session like this, but there are plenty of resources online that we have available for you to check out if you want to learn how to do that.
And a lot of it comes from experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is somewhat of an art. So it's good. It won't come overnight, but you will start seeing it overnight too. I could say that. And the reason Lawton's bringing it up, like he said, it's on sale. Folks, this is normally around $500, and I think it's 51% off. So it's like $250. The amount of information that's in there, you're going to be able to make one trade and make up the cost of that education, but then the education is going to be with you for so long. It's critical to understand this stuff. So take advantage of it while it's on sale. It won't be on sale forever, but I know it is on sale. So take advantage of it.
Cool. All right. Next question. Brian says, could you give an update on Ethereum USD, maybe ETH/Bitcoin, if you feel it's helpful? Is the consolidation that was happening before the wick last week invalidated on Ethereum?
I'll be happy to jump in there. I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll switch you. Oh, you got it.
Yep, I got it. Yeah, so check this out, folks. So I got Ethereum on the daily chart, right? And he was asking if that consolidation here is invalidated because of this move down here. And at the time being, no, it's not. This basically was a couple candle test. Look, I've got support isolated right here at this pivot high. Price came almost to it. We had a low here of 21.13, and I had support just a little bit lower on the charts. Looks like I wrote it in correctly, though. So mathematically, I wrote the right one. Didn't correctly put it to a tag of that trend line right here on those pivots. But ultimately, we got a great bounce up. And notice where we're consolidating now. So I'm going to scroll back out on the daily chart. And you can see where this trend line originates from. So this trend line originates from the pivot low back in June of 22. And it was strung together over to the very next major pivot. Notice how this one pivot right here at the beginning of November of 2022, price came straight down into it, bounced up, and then pierced that level. So I like to have my trend lines connected from pivot to the very next significant pivot and then strung all the way across. Notice what happens there too. when I do that, instead of taking the lower pivot area right here, we've got trend line support right here in the price action October of 23. And we come all the way back to current price action and notice where price is consolidating. Now, normally if price consolidates right on top of a support area, it could tend to break to go down. So I'm still eyeing a potential further breakdown in Ethereum, but this sort of short-term move up, if you erase everything to the left, this short-term move up is a bull flag. So we're right there kind of in the middle area of, do we trade it? Do we not? If you're in it, I'd recommend holding it. And if you're not in it, I'd recommend, if you are interested in getting into Ethereum, it's really not a terrible place. Yes, we could certainly break down and go further, but what I'm looking for the longer term, you see this declining trend line right here. We have an inverse head and shoulders pattern that's forming on the charts. Now, we haven't broken above and pushed higher, but that measured move for the inverse head and shoulders is all the way up here at $4,100. So if you were to tell me, even though price did drop down to 2,100, and I'm a sucker for wanting to refrain and sit on my hands, because I've found that patience and discipline has saved me a lot of money over the years. So I tend to sit back and wait for price to come into my levels rather than chase moving up. But in this scenario with Ethereum, it depends upon how much, like your strategy, how much you want to dedicate to it. Is this going to be like some sort of monthly or quarterly investment where you have, let's just say, I don't know, 1% of your savings you're allocated to it, or 0.5% of your savings? I'm not quite sure your financial situation, but I do think Ethereum has been beaten up over the long run. Over this, you see this massive drop that has occurred, and with its new upgrades that occurred, I believe it's the Spectra upgrades that occurred here. It made Ethereum more efficient. So Ethereum is starting to get back more into the discussion of one of the top few cryptocurrencies out there. And so I wouldn't mind picking up, just nibbling on some here. If we drop down, you see the support areas that I've listed that you can always just add to the position. Now, this is more of a hodler mentality, and you got to understand that's one of the services that I'm doing. So collecting Ethereum in this range is not a bad idea, as long as you just don't say, hey, here's my full position when I'm going to add to Ethereum right here. Because I do think Ethereum will continue moving higher in the mid to long term.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Great job there. See, Mourinho says, I have been watching Gareth's game plan and Drew's trading the close for a while. Is this a one-off broadcast, or are you going to do this more often? Traders Edge Crypto, thank you guys. So this is going to happen every single Monday.
Oh, every Monday?
Every Monday from 11:30 to
fine
for about 45 minutes to an hour, right?
Yeah,
depending on whether we get a trade or not.
Yeah,
right.
Lens.
Look at continue move up on Bitcoin. Nice push. So this was smart for us to not get involved. We were just a little too late to the party as far as starting the show to get into a play one way or the other. It was really a lot of middle ground areas we discussed there, Ben.
Yep. I mean, that's the problem without having an advantage, right? Is like you can just be kind of stuck in a position.
Mm-hmm.
It's like gambling, right? Flipping a coin.
Yeah, I mean,
it really, and then really, what's the benefit of us giving information out to you folks, right? Like this is one of the best things. Like, even though obviously I want to get into a trade, I was into a trade each of the last 2 sessions we did, and I want to give you guys some action. I want to give you guys some profits. That's one of our goals. And with that being our goal, I'm not going to force trades, because then we'll start just losing on trades here. And believe me, even with proper setups and proper probabilities of say 80+%, or even if we get multiple factors, like 3+ factors lining up, pushing us higher over 90%, there's still a 10% chance roughly that we will lose. So if I know that going into trades, I'm not willing to really get into the 50-50 coin tosses because I already know I'm going to have losses when I really have a stacked deck in my favor. So discipline is paramount whenever you're trading.
All right. A couple final questions. Kipla says, what do you guys think is the best percentage amount to put into a swing trade as a starter position for a long? I would say it depends on what you're trading, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, well, it depends on your trading, depends on how many coins you want to allocate, depends on how many factors you have, what is Bitcoin doing. how strong the coin is, so many different things. We start with a 1% because we like to go the shotgun effect, right? So if I have multiple different altcoins getting into key specific levels, I don't want to get in with like 3 or 4% of my portfolio, or even 7 to 10%, because then I'm limited on my ads. Because every once in a while you're going to have an altcoin that'll go against you, even though it's into a key technical level. So instead, I'll go in with like 6 or 7 altcoins and hope one of them or 2 of them play out really quickly, so I can remove that from the table, stack and continually stack the deck that way. So that's what I do. But it really depends on your, again, time outlook, how many altcoins you're looking at, what are the key support levels, what's Bitcoin doing. I mean, just a lot of different factors.
Yeah, 100% agree with that method, because that shotgun approach too, you can understand that these trend lines do get pierced, much like right here, and also much like right here. So let's just say your only buy area was here on Bitcoin at $103,439. Well, you're going to be feeling pain if you put everything into the position there. You're going to be feeling pain here, rather than strategically having an approach to where you say like 10% of your portfolio is going into this one coin or this one stock. And then you divide that 10% out into different entries to help you bring that average down, so that when the price corrects from your thesis of the bounce that you were anticipating, your average is lower, you got a decent stake, and then you'll be able to make some really good money on that move. And then on the flip side too, let's just say you're wrong, right? If you limit the amount of your portfolio being 10% that you enter into that trade, and let's say you lose 30% of that 10%, right? So that's now 3% of your total portfolio. Now, 3% loss, no one likes 3% losses, right? Of the total portfolio, but you can come back from a 3% loss compared to if you put, say, 40% of your portfolio in, and then you took a 30% loss on that. Like that's the mathematics is what's involved to make sure that the probabilities we teach, you maintain a high success rate, and then also your losers will not impact your overall portfolio as significantly, as long as you maintain proper allocation towards each position.
Right. Plus, it also keeps the emotions out of it, right? On occasion, if I get in 1% of our portfolio and it drops 20%, I'm like, all right, well, I get to double my position now, and I get to put in less money now. So I can add to the position. So then if it really rips, awesome. Now I've got twice the amount of shares or twice the amount of coins that I had previously. So let's this thing go. And then you can dollar cost average on your way out as well. Do that all the time.
That's a beautiful thing that Ben said, right? Like, so say you got 100 coins of a certain crypto, and now the price drops 20%, like Ben said. Well, now it's basically 20% cheaper to buy that same 100 amount of coins, right? So you're putting less money at it, and then also bringing that average down and collecting a more solid position. So yeah, that's a great point there, Ben.
Awesome.
All right. Do you guys want to answer a couple more?
Sure, why not? We're here.
All right.
They're here. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Last couple of questions. Martin says, FYI, I just found coinmarketcap.com, which appears to list crypto by market cap. It's cool. Ben says, sorry, you were going to say something, Ben? Oh. All right. Ben says, Bitcoin hit its trend line from its top in December 2017 about 10 times and still hasn't broken it. So much for your fantasy trendline guessing game.
Ooh, what? Fantasy trendline guessing game. Wow.
Bitcoin hit the trend line from its top in 2017 about 10 times.
From 2017? You talking about this?
I'm assuming so, but I don't know where he's drawing it to.
Well, from what basically the short story to that comment, I will say, hey, trend lines are not 100% thing. We've said during this chat that there is no 100% technique in trading at all. There's no 100% anything in life, for that fact. But when you are able to draw proper trend lines, a break gives you a lot of information. Knowing how price breaks that trend line is what can help you make another trade. There's so much information I gather from trend lines. To say it's a fantasy game, that's just kind of comical. How did price stop right here? All right, tell me why price on Sunday, June 22nd, put in a low at $98,225 on Bitcoin. Like, why did that happen? That's above these pivots. Why did it stop there? And if you can explain that through something besides trend lines, then I'm all ears. But look at this trend line from the bottom end of this parallel channel, and it stopped right there. And then we have continual stops right here at the 50% area of this parallel. And then consider this, parallels with this inclining angle, price is changing throughout time. So I can't just draw a horizontal trend line and then just say, yep, here's the level in the sand, because this horizontal area in the 50% area of the parallel, look at how many times it's tagged and then falls, breaks up, comes over for the top, now bounces off of it. So I don't understand how to convey any more amazing information and details than with trend lines.
Absolutely. All right, I think we're gonna call it there. What do you guys say?
Let's take one more.
There are no more questions. There are no more questions.
All right.
I don't have any new questions. This is the last one.
All right. No worries. That was it. All right. We're going to end this fantasy stream. You guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of the Verified Investing family. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a day trade, but that's what happens sometimes. There's no volatility. If you guys want to trade it with us, we have smart money. We have smart money crypto where we have swing trade positions. So if you're interested in crypto, you can definitely check that out. Thank you again to Blowfin for sponsoring us. Again, my name is Lawton Ho. I'm joined by Benjamin Poole. Yeah.
What are the requirements on the promotion? Because we're still running the promotion, or Blowfin's still running the promotion, aren't they?
Yeah, it's based on, so with our sponsor Blowfin, right? You can get a sign-up bonus depending on how much money you deposit and the amount of volume of cryptocurrency that you trade on Blowfin. And you can do that exclusively by using our link. If you go to our homepage, scroll to the very bottom, and where it says our sponsors, you can check out Blowfin, see all the goodies that they're going to give you. And again, it's based on how much you deposit and your trading volume.
That's right. So pretty good rewards, you guys. And getting paid to possibly trade. So there you go.
For sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching again. I'm Lawton Ho, joined by Benjamin Poole and Drew Dosek, whose course is half off right now for the next week. So go ahead and capitalize on that. All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Bye.